Ideally, I don't want to be one of these people who turns heel straight away and calls for this, that and the other to happen. It's dramatic. But it's kind of almost unforgivable last night.
Yeah.
And the reason it's unforgivable is because there's no real clear understanding of what it is they're even trying to do. Yeah. It's not as though they're doggedly sticking to some system that people find a bit boring and go, well, that's not really how we should be playing because of the players we've got. The real underlying question that needs to be answered here, which is really damaging for this current England team at the moment as we sit here now, and things can change and there's a long way to go and all the rest of it, but as we sit here now, you're starting to ask yourself questions as a football fan as what type of team England actually want to be.
Exactly.
And you shouldn't be asking that now.
That's right.
They're not a pressing team. They can't seem to press for either through physical fitness or because that's not how they want to play.
See, as a Manchester United fan, it's hard. Yeah. See, pressing is hard.
Half the Danish team don't do it. They play for Man United. They're not a counter-pressing team. I think we've seen that. They don't play on the break.
Yep.
They're not someone who soaks and strikes and soaks it all up and then breaks. And they're not possession based.
Yeah.
So what is it? What actually is it supposed to be?
Woke. That's what it's supposed to be.
This is where woke gets you.
Yeah.
Fitz, what did you make of it all?
I actually used this analogy outside to Luke before you arrived, but I think, people say when you're... I don't know how they've found this out, but people say when you're drowning that obviously you fight against it and then there's a moment when you're at peace with it.
Yep.
That was how I was yesterday, because I agree with everything Luke just said, but I think it was when I was trying to work out what England do and realising they don't actually do anything.
Very harrowing.
It is a little bit, yeah. Does it feel like a Friday today, does it?
That last night was far more serious than drowning.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, oh, definitely, yeah. But basically, one of the things that... I think we kind of knew this, but there was... I suppose we figured that it would just be better, full stop, is that I'm really alarmed by the lack of synergy. And I think some of that comes from Southgate himself. I think a lot of it comes from the players. And I actually think the goal England scored highlights it perfectly, because Kyle Walker does brilliantly to win the ball back. He takes a touch in the box, and for his club, what he would do is he would pass it inside to Saka, because there was a left footer there in that.
Or he could have passed it back to Kane as well, even though it got to Kane.
But what Kyle Walker would have done for Man City is pass it to Saka, because Saka was where he was, where he would be for us.
Saka's playing for Man City in this analogy as well.
No, so I'm going through here.
I get what you're saying.
Stick with me.
Yeah.
But obviously, eventually it gets to Kane and Kane puts it in. But there's a cleaner way of scoring that goal.
There is.
There was a moment when, actually, before the mistake, in the first half, actually, where Mark Gay gets the ball in his box and decides to dribble out with it. He doesn't do that for Palace. He just, on a whim, thought, right, we're not getting the ball out here, so I'll just take it forward.
Yep.
You had someone like Declan Rice, who seemed completely unmoored, probably his worst. But that's definitely one of the worst performances I've seen from Declan Rice, full stop.
Typified when he tried to make a pass and it just went out of play.
Yeah, it's mad.
Unrecognisable.
Again, if at our level, if you do that, you'd be seriously pissed off at yourself.
Yeah.
And that left-hand side is a mess. I knew it would be. And there's no remedy for that, because there's no left-footed left-back in the squad. He's not going to play Gordon out there. He might do for the next game, but not that there's a lack of trust there, but he just hadn't selected him. But I also thought even the three subs were like devoid of any real. It felt like they were devoid of any real understanding of what England needed in the game. Take Kane off if you want, fine. Yeah. But actually, England were losing in the area where Kane used to drop into. Yeah. So I thought, well, why don't you bring on Tony then? Because at least Tony will sit there.
Well, I think they wanted to try and stretch the play. I mean,
But why? Because there was no reason, like nothing about how the game played out had England in those positions anyway, beyond literally just hoofing the ball. And then you got to ask yourself that question of when he brings Watkins on for that. I agree with you. That's what he was looking for. Why are you doing that?
Well, but I mean, Watkins would have been the one I would have sort of scrutinised the least, actually, because I think Watkins, Bellingham slips him in and it just the angle, and Schmeichel did well to smother it. It was that kind of thing that they wanted a bit more of. But I mean, that was really the only one. I think energy was what Southgate kept saying, which is quite damning. Now, we know England have had a couple of injuries. I'm sure lots of other squads have players that are maybe not quite there and so on. But England, across the board, it's not like that they are running around like headless chickens and they need to be synced up. It's not like they're synced up and they lack energy, as you say. It is all all over the place.
They're not even at the starting line.
No,
with what they want to do.
And a lot needs to happen here. People can say take Trent Alexander out for Conor Gallagher. Well, we've seen that, and it hasn't really had a huge effect. I think it's had a tiny little effect. Southgate made the sub a little bit earlier. Okay, but again, you're barely papering over huge cracks here. There needs a rethink. And actually, do you know what? It was funny. I had a bit of the old Han Solo bad feeling about this before the first game. And then after that game, I thought...
He's the one who doesn't have the lightsaber.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
cool. Just for our listeners.
That's fine. Yeah.
Imagine him not knowing who Han fucking Solo is. I don't think that... It's not one of Pete's more obscure ones.
Could have been Hans Zimmer. People know who Hans Zimmer is.
Well, I'd have said Hans Zimmer then, wouldn't I?
Yeah, that's true.
You know.
He's a music one.
That's right.
Did the Going for Gold theme.
Yeah, and he's got the keys to my bimmer. But going back to England, as I must, I think the previous tournaments under Southgate, you can see what they've tried to play and work on. The only one I was slightly baffled about, or not slightly concerned with, was 3 years ago at the Euros when he was tinkering with a 3-4-3, and then there was the 4-3. I was like, make up your mind. Then, of course, actually deployed both at that tournament, and up until the final, did pretty well. I mean, it was 3-4-3 against Germany when they matched them up and did pretty well. And you could, okay, I can see it. This tournament, on the way into this tournament, if you look at the friendlies and all that, it has felt a bit disjointed. The only performance where we thought, oh, that looked a bit more like it was against Belgium, but the back door was left quite widely open, if you see what I mean. So that was the only game. But he's clearly basing his team on what happened towards the end of 2023 when they beat Scotland and they beat Italy. And they played that sort of 2-3-4-1 or 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1 and 4-3-3. And you had Rice and Phillips with Bellingham in front, and then it was actually Rashford. Foden was on the right, I think, against Italy, and then Kane up front. So a few personnel changes, but not that different.
Yeah, but the balance is completely different, isn't it?
The balance is completely different. But I found it interesting that Southgate even mentioned Calvin Phillips. Yeah. He said, well, we haven't found a replacement. I thought to myself...
He mentioned Jordan Henderson as well.
Well, I thought to myself, well, hang on, why should you mention a guy who was never going to make the squad? It's not like he got injured on the eve of the tournament.
No, exactly, yeah.
And I thought that was quite damning. Jordan Henderson, I agree with not being picked for the tournament, but Henderson, they always used to say, and again, in the Qatar World Cup, when he played his way into the team, he was bellowing at them, get up, and you think... Is this a case of they don't have the leaders on the pitch? But it can't just be that.
I was reading some interesting stuff this morning from one or two journalists talking about how people seem concerned that Southgate is being overly loyal to really big characters in the camp now, and how he's picking players that perhaps shouldn't necessarily be being picked. And it made me wonder why he's picked what looked on paper like quite a bold squad. If he's not going to start using them more. And I think you could see in bright, kind of clear terms yesterday the idea of the fact if you play Trippier at left back and you play Foden, it basically completely fucks you against a team who's organised, because you're cutting off the entirety of the left-hand side of the pitch. Now, I totally understand the idea that you want to go down the route of saying, we've not got our first choice left back because of injury, we've not even got our second choice left back because of injury, we need to make a concession, then we need to do something. Now,
Trippier has played a fair few times.
He has, but he's not a left-sided player. And I think that's just how it is, right?
He's not... someone made this point on X yesterday. He's not Newcastle's second choice left back.
Right. And here's the thing. He doesn't... So what does Trippier bring you? He brings you a lot of experience, a lot of leadership. There's a reason Newcastle went after him early when they were doing this revolutionary thing. He's a big leader on the pitch. He's super aggressive as a defender, and he can get up and down. But he doesn't give you width. I don't think he gives you width on the left.
Not on the left, no.
And Foden doesn't want to be there.
No.
Foden's in that team there because Southgate is essentially... I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, and I don't want to be too harsh, but essentially, to break it down to its component parts, Foden's there because Southgate's gone, I don't think I can wear not having Foden in there. And
has played there for Man City a lot in his career.
Well, yeah, but the way Man City plays totally different.
I know, but he has.
And Foden's best work, actually, this season for Man City, in my view, has been through the middle or off the right.
Well, and also... Yeah, on the heat map, he loves coming off the right, and he hit the post last night.
Yeah,
and he picked that up, and it was from the right. And when he broke into the box and he hit the ball over from the right.
So what this comes down to is there's a load of different things to unpack here, and it's quite difficult to get through them all in such a short amount of time. But they need to play with a tempo and they need to be aggressive. They're not doing that at the moment. So whatever way they want to play, like it's the old Graham Souness thing, isn't it? We can all only deal with a certain amount of Graham Souness punditry, right? Because it just gets a bit repetitive and a bit basic. But one of the things he does say, which I believe in, and I think has always been the case in football, is if you aren't going to go out on the front foot and you're not going to win the fucking ball, you can play whatever possession you want. It doesn't matter what you do because you have to win your individual battles. At the moment, England don't look anywhere near that. No. So they need to do that. The second thing they need to do is that they may have, even if he picks exactly the same team again, in which case the whole country will probably mutiny, but if he does, they might even still have enough to get past Slovenia, because Slovenia are a kind of average team.
But this is what I was saying off the back of Serbia.
So that's that, right? But at some point, what he's going to need to do is he's going to need to decide what he does with these kind of three positions around the middle of midfield. And the positions are the Bellingham position at the moment, the Alexander-Arnold position, and the Foden position. He needs to decide what he's going to do with that first and foremost. The second thing he needs to do after that is he needs to instill into this team an idea that if they can't decide what type of team they're going to be, which I actually think is unforgivable at this stage, given how long he's been there. But even if they can't do that, they need to be aggressive and they need to be front foot and they need to play with tempo.
The lack of tempo is unbelievable.
Yeah, completely. And before I hand over, I just want to say that and I would like to talk about that through the lens of Jude Bellingham.
Yeah.
I said after the Serbia game, and one or two people didn't necessarily agree, and that's fine. I think Andy was one of them. I thought he drifted badly.
He did.
First half an hour he drifted. Andy was saying, look at the work he did without the ball. He was asked to do a certain job. That's fine. In the game last night, and he's only 20 years old, and he's on his day is, in my view, the best player in the world. So I want to be contextualising of that. I want to say I don't think he's a bad player or anything overnight. I think he's amazing. Last night he was a fucking embarrassment. He was a total embarrassment. He was languid. He was Hollywood. He was everything he wanted to do on his own terms. He got caught in possession.
You're right to say Hollywood. There was a couple of times
massively Hollywood. And there was one.
And it wasn't a case. Sorry to interrupt. It wasn't a case he was trying to Beckham v Greece. Come on, I'll do it.
No.
It was. I'll remind everybody who I am.
It was chocolado. It was absolute proper Alan Pardew lick myself clean stuff. And I think, and I'm being serious. If you are someone with that ability and that astronomical career so far for his age, you're La Liga Player of the Year, right? As a foreign player, and you've come in your first season and you're playing like that, right? If you get caught in possession by a fucking pub player. Relatively speaking, he's an international player.
It's a bit harsh to say that. But I mean, a player who's far inferior to you.
Then you should be ashamed of yourself. And what I would do, honestly, is I would do one of two things. I'd either drop him, because I think that's an important message to send, or I'd play him in that Alexander-Arnold position and say, you can do that job alongside Rice, you can give us a real solid base, you can break forward, you can get into the box late. I'd play Foden in the middle, and I'd put a flyer out on the left.
Gordon, it's got to be Gordon.
Yeah, he can get up and down, he can support Trippier, he can attack. You've got to do that. If they did that and they played with tempo and aggression, there's still a chance for them in this tournament. But based on last night, they come up against anyone half decent, it's going to be horrific.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about Spain in a bit, but my goodness.
Yeah, in comparison, it's just ridiculous.
It is night and day. Look, and I think we'll perhaps, those sort of general points that you've made as well, we could go on and on and on about them, but let's drill down onto some of the more details here. He has decisions to make. I don't think he'll start Trent Alexander-Arnold in the next game. I think that it's not just a case of Trent out and Gallagher in, because that's a bit unfair on Alexander-Arnold, I think, to blame it all on him. I think he's done okay. It's the system, it's the whole vibe, it's perhaps the pressure of it all is getting to England. Maybe they are missing one or two experienced players. Maybe they are missing Grealish joking around in the camp.
Come on, man.
I don't know.
That's excuse making, though.
Connor Cody is out there, though, but he's a pundit.
Yeah, well, get him in the camp and let him.
He was great, actually, after the game.
He was. But England need to do something. If I was going to go...
Declan Rice has got 50 caps, mate.
If I was going to go really radical, I would say change it to a 3-4-3. But I don't think that's going to happen, so I won't ponder on that too much. So what I might do is... I would restructure that midfield slightly to what England had in Qatar. And people say, don't go back to a failed tournament. It's not that. That midfield was much more cohesive and worked. And I'd have Rice in front of the back four. and I'd have Bellingham playing either left centre or right centre, who you fancy, and then maybe Gallagher or maybe even Mainu now, who can keep the ball and can pass it.
I think that's what he'll do. I think
you can't have two and you can't give Bellingham this free role now. He if you like, he abused that against Denmark, and I think you've got to say, right, you are now a sort of an 8. I'm going to play with a 6 and 2 8s if you like, if we do the numbering system. Foden, you've still got the Foden conundrum and all that kind of stuff.
Surely you've got to do what I just said.
Well,
can't
take the fox and the chicken. Cannot take the Bellingham and the Foden.
The problem with Bellingham is this, right? I don't think that the best preparation for him for this tournament is this Adidas advert, which I fucking love, by the way.
I didn't.
It's amazing. You know, the kid's 20. He's won 1 league title in his career, right? And a Champions League, right? That he's at the start of his career. You need to kind of give a message where you say, if you are going to do this, you've got to do this. You've got to just do it. And I would. But
this is not just indicative.
Do you know what he's going to do? But I'll tell you what he's going to do, and it's going to be infuriating. Is he's just going to drop Alexander-Arnold and play Gallagher instead?
Well, that is.
And that won't solve any of the problems.
Well, if he does that, then England are doomed. Quite frankly, they'll be, if they do reach the knockouts, which would take a big effort not to, then I think whoever they got in that knockouts, even if it was, say, somebody like a Poland or something who England would normally be fancied again, that they could come unstuck there. So that position is being scrutinised. He'll stick with Trippier. I think he will. And to be honest, I think
he has to.
Yeah, unless there
is literally no one else.
Yeah.
It is a dereliction of management that he's in this situation, and that's all on Southgate.
I mean, the back four actually have been all right. I mean, Gay's come in and done really, really well.
He could play Gomez there, couldn't he?
You'd have the same problem.
Yeah, I think the back four actually are fairly settled. I think they're okay. I understand that Trippier, it's a little something, but it's not the thing. They need to play higher. They need to get up there, and he needs to drill that into them. Because again, against Serbia and against Denmark, you're not playing against pace, so you can get up there. This is the thing. You've got Walker and Gay's pretty quick. It is unbelievable that they're playing so deep.
Yeah.
They should be 10 yards at least higher.
Agree.
And again, you're not like, against Nico Williams, he can murder us. Maybe we should sit deep. None of that bollocks against Serbia and Denmark. So what they're doing is Southgate needs to drill him. And he said specifically to the question, when Kelly Summers on the BBC said to him, "Are you instructing them to go deep?" He went, "No."
Yeah.
Didn't even go, well, at times, no, was his answer.
Yeah.
Very, very unmanager-like to be that frank about it.
So on Twitter, we asked our listeners if that was really Trent's last game of the tournament in midfield last night, who would you like to see him replace him next to Rice?
Yeah.
And the big popular answer to that question has been either Wharton or Bellingham. Yeah, at the head of Mainu and way ahead of Gallagher. Gallagher's way down the list. Now, that tells you one or two things. It tells you that either none of our listeners don't know anything about football, which is possible.
That's not true.
Which
That's why they're with us.
They can join the club, exactly. or they're a lot more. They're a lot less conservative than Southgate is going to be. Look, he has to sort the left hand side out. He has to sort the balance out. And as Marcus, you rightly say, you're totally right to say this. You've got to be way further up the pitch. And one of the things you've got to do as well, particularly international level, is when the other team have got the ball, you've got to make the pitch small.
Well, I tell you something.
You've got to close it up.
One thing I'm quite concerned about is the fact that pre-tournament, in the friendlies, but also in the chat from the pundits, the journalists, and the players and manager was, well, we know teams are going to sit deep against us. Everybody says that. We know teams are going to sit deep against us. It's just about us trying to break them down. As I say, against Serbia, it kind of started like that, and now everyone's called their bluff. And that is worrying. And there's
that's a good way of putting it.
There's almost an overconfidence, dare I even say an arrogance of, well, obviously we've got big, massive players, we've got all this quality, so people are going to be scared. That's gone now. So England have now got to rethink this massively. And they're not the team that's going to dominate football matches like they think. And this idea of pressing, this idea of whatever, one of the big problems for England, if you want to press from the front, is Harry Kane. A lot of people talking about Harry Kane. He looks injured to me.
Yeah,
he does not look at the races.
Yeah,
I know he scored, and that's good, but come on.
It's reminiscent of the Champions League final with the Spurs, when they were racing back to get him fit.
Yeah.
And the problem, this is another thing, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about big characters.
Yeah.
But you have to be confident and in a position of strength as a manager or a management team to say, you're not playing, whether it's a Bellingham or a Kane or a Foden or whatever. One thing I do have sympathy with Southgate for is, you can frame this in the Kane way if you want, or you can frame it in the Phil Foden thing. He's got so many players that have done so well.
Yeah.
He's got Bellingham's just won a Liga Player of the Year. Foden's been best player in the Premier League this year. Kane's broken loads of records for goal scoring for Bayern Munich, who are a massive club this year. He's got a load of things he's got to do, and it's not easy. I understand it's not easy, but I did think when we were talking earlier about the lack of pressing, and when it covered again last night on the highlights package that the BBC showed, I did think, who's their trigger going to be for the press? If it's going to be Kane, they're going to be waiting all day because he doesn't seem to be able to get around the pitch, and it's been masked a bit by the goal that he scored. Which he's always going to sniff out a goal. I mean, we know his record is amazing, and I don't think that's particularly indicative. The type of goal it was as well. I mean, anyone would have scored it. So I guess he was positionally good, but he's not.
But if you're not going to press,
he's not where he needs to be.
No,
and I think it was actually you guys had a bit of a discussion earlier about Watkins. The best chance England actually had was that Watkins chance, and it's actually a pretty good save from Kasper Schmeichel in the end. And I wonder whether I kind of fall between both of you on the Watkins thing. I understand why he brought him on. The way he brought all three of them on, though, looked a bit like
he was almost like trying to prove a point.
Yeah.
It was a bit friendly.
Yeah. And I thought to myself, Kane must be absolutely fucked because Southgate's taking him off.
Yeah.
And he's taking him off with 20 minutes to go. It's quite a big statement anyway. I mean, he's a captain and he's the proper talisman of the team. So maybe, look, the problem is we're all crying out for all these changes, and I'm not really that confident that he'll do any of them.
Well, it's one change, really. Like the way I see it is, it's one change that remedies it. It's
so you're carrying on with Kane?
Yeah, I'm carrying on with Kane. I am bringing in Bellingham lower down, taking Trent out of the firing line, moving Foden in, and then Gordon. Alternatively, bringing in Mainu, but dragging Bellingham deeper. Much in you articulated that 6 and 2/8 kind of thing, because then it allows Kane to drop deep. And actually, when you do that. Foden has a bit more inside left space to work with. He does. Rather than, because Bellingham's been there.
But this is what's happening now. Slovenia, it's going to be interesting because Slovenia are going to smell blood now.
They don't fear England.
They're in a position where they need a positive result, right? Yeah. And they're going to go, actually, when we came into this tournament, the final group game against England, we need to start really well. They haven't started that well. They haven't started badly. They're still in the mix, right? But now they're probably going, well, I'll tell you what, we fancy it against England. Yeah. We can get amongst them. If Slovenia get an early goal against England, it's going to be carnage. Absolute carnage.
Well, it will be for our watch-along, which is next Tuesday for England versus Slovenia.
Sold out, thankfully. Yes. You can't have your money back.
Yeah. You have to come and watch it.
We have competition that evening because apparently Kevin Keegan and Rob Lee are hosting their own watch-along. So mine
not at the stadium, is it?
Yeah. I don't know. I hope it's open air because the roof might fall in on Keegan. So do come to our one. I do stress it'll be good, and I think we will see a change in England. I think we have to. I think there are different gears. We know there are gears. I was just and they have to go through them. And this is look. There are plenty of examples that we can draw and go. Well, this team didn't start and this team didn't start. We only cherry pick the ones that ended up doing okay. Actually, most teams don't start well, then don't end up having a good tournament. But I think England will improve against Slovenia. There will be changes. Southgate is no fool. I've defended that man to the hilt in recent times. My defence of him is well, it has waned, quite frankly. Yeah. But what I would say is he isn't a fool. He's going to do something,
and he's calm as well. He's not a hot-headed guy.
And I think the pressure is getting to the camp a little bit, and I think that he is the right man to try and calm it down. And the one thing we should say is that England they're not giving away too many chances. The Danish goal was an absolute beauty. The problem is, of course, that if you're only 1-0 up and you're going to go, well, if you ping one in, well, there's been a lot of pingers at this tournament.
That was a real Hades comic goal. He hardly ever scores that player either. And that guy never scores the goals. It's his first international goal. It's a beauty. He struck it so well.
Yeah.
And I would make a case that, I thought to myself, when we come into that, it's going to be quite negative for all the obvious reasons, and obviously we have been as honest as we can be. And I was thinking to myself, can we make a case for England being okay? And I think, you're right to talk about the chances. They conceded a lot more chances against Denmark than I've seen them for a while in tournament football. How good quality were the chances? I'm not really sure. I haven't checked the XG. It was a pretty hot day with the roof closed for all the reasons that the pitch was a fucking vegetable patch. All these things do play into it.
Same for both teams, though.
It is the same for both teams, but it suits Denmark to have a shitty pitch.
We should also take into account, certainly something that I'm perceptive of, the pollen count in Frankfurt. That might have had
could have
had an effect on it.
But also, can we take a moment also to say there's a lot of people listening to this show who absolutely love it when England do shit. And, congratulations to them. They're probably having a great old time listening to this.
But look, this is...
Scottish people.
This is it. And Denmark...
But we cover their league so well. Why?
Yeah, Denmark played very well, so we need to just end on that note, perhaps, to say kudos.
Good team, Denmark, aren't they? Imagine the finals, Denmark-Serbia.
Oh.
We'd look stupid then, wouldn't we?
Yeah, that'd be annoying.
Didn't lose to either of them. Mugs.
Yeah, it would be vindicated with Southgate, wouldn't he?
Get some medals made up.
Yeah, maybe. Coming up after the break, we will talk about Slovenia versus Serbia, Spain versus Italy, and Lionel Messi's going to get a mention. See you in a moment.
Slovenia will have a corner just like that, Stephen Warnock. It's come alive.
It has come to life, and thank goodness for that.
Welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody. Stephen Warnock there, commentating on the BBC. His career flashed before his eyes, as someone put on Twitter. Yeah. Apparently, he was going to say thankfully, and he stopped and he said not fully. Oh, I'll do something else.
That's worse than not making the mistake. I mean, you could just go, yes, yeah, and then he swore. Sorry about that. I didn't swear though, so it's fine. Yeah. Don't make up some cock and balls, some funny story.
It was a bit like Schaffernacker, that.
Yeah. She like doing that. Giving the old middle finger and then scratching his face.
I don't care what the weatherman says, but the weatherman is sticking his middle finger up at the presenter.
I mean, on live TV, that wasn't even a mistake. That was just him taking the piss.
It was superb. Right, Slovenia won, Serbia won. The smallest nation at the Euros were just moments away from their first ever victory at the European Championships. Gutting for them, but a lifeline for Serbia. Serbian manager Dragan Stojkovic said post-match, "Our style is very offensive. I don't like boring football."
I was quite offended by it, actually.
Well, because you feel that was a dig at England?
Yeah, well, I mean...
Not the first time anyone's been offended by a Serbian.
Come on.
But it's funny, because they're such a stodgy team, and they're so top-heavy that they don't really play like fluid football. They just even the nature of their equaliser, because they were rubbish yesterday. But the nature of their equaliser was like, if we chucked on all the front men.
Yeah,
I tell you what though, Oblak did make a lot of saves.
He did.
When you say they're rubbish, Oblak was fucking brilliant.
But at the back end, it took them a while to get going.
Well, their showings at tournaments, I think, has slightly betrayed them, because I think Serbia are a better side in their. As they are currently as Serbia, because we've obviously seen Serbia, Montenegro, and obviously we know the history. But as Serbia, they've never been past the first round of a major tournament. It is a small sample size. Obviously, I stress it's not a dig. But I think for some of the players they've had and some of the football they've played, it's a little bit of a surprise at the World Cup 2022. I think the mood was of one of disappointment in Serbia that they never qualified, having gone into positions in games when they were a couple of goals up and so on. There are goals in the team, actually. I'm surprised they've only scored one. I mean, okay, against England were quite dogged in defence, but you'd have fancied them against Slovenia. And it's a 95th minute equaliser from that man Jovic, header from a corner, of course. But gutting for Slovenia as well. I mean, such a tiny nation, and have played so... in a very spirited manner, if I'm going to sound ever so slightly patronising, which I really don't mean that to sound like.
Didn't they do well?
Yeah.
But it was, towards the end of the game, it was Oblak who was probably their only genuine, maybe Šeško, a lot of people are excited about, but in terms of their genuine world-class players, Oblak is probably the only one.
They were hanging on a bit. Against Denmark, they actually played pretty well, I think you would agree. You know, they second half, they grew into it, and perhaps...
They played like a team who... And again, this is going to sound patronising, but against Denmark, they played like a team who's like, we're fucking delighted to be here. This is going to be great. And then they kind of grew in confidence through the game and were able to peg them back. In this game, it was like they went ahead, obviously, and then they did what a lot of teams naturally do, where they kind of sort of recede into themselves. Yeah, like, it would be massive for us to get a win here.
Totally, against the better side.
And then actually what happened was, ironically, given how good he is and how good he was in the game, Oblak completely lost his mind for that corner in the 95th minute.
Yeah.
If you look at his starting position and his end position when the goal goes in, it's actually quite bizarre.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
He's quite an unorthodox keeper. If you listen to people who play in goal and people who actually know about goalkeeping, which I'm not one of them, people love Oblak because he's brilliant, but he's naturally brilliant and he's quite unorthodox. And some of the stuff he does, it's a bit like, I don't want to say it's like when Schmeichel used to make those saves that you've never really seen before, but it's a similar kind of energy. And I have no idea what he was doing for that corner, because it was a good corner because it came in right on the 6-yard box. And you kind of fancy, if you're a big, strong, competent goalkeeper, if it comes into the 6-yard box in that central area, the keeper's going to probably get it. and he didn't make a decision to come because I think the ball was right on that cusp of can I come and get it or not?
Yeah.
And then he ended up about 2 yards into his own goal. He wasn't even positioned to make a save. So I think it was really harsh on them because for one bit of indecision from their best player meant they came away with a point instead of 3. And I would have liked to have seen them close it out because it would have been a bit of a story actually for them.
It would have been a great story. I mean, the defender who was marking Jovic as well was too obsessed with Jovic in that he was just trying to push him away and didn't actually go on to head the ball away.
Well, it was defended like a last-minute corner where you're only leading by a goal.
Totally,
There was a lot of panic in there.
Panic is the word, and it was a shame for them. Great for Serbia though, because they would have been really up against it going into that final game against Denmark. So it's still all to play for in England's group. Now, earlier yesterday, Serbia had threatened to quit the tournament after footage emerged of Croatian and Albanian fans chanting unsavoury stuff about Serbians during their game on Wednesday. UEFA are preparing to open disciplinary proceedings against both nations, but Serbia fans were then heard chanting unsavoury stuff about Kosovo. And
a lot of unsavouriness.
Well, I'm using the word unsavoury because it's
a complicated issue.
Indeed, it's upset a lot of people. It's a complicated issue, and I'm just reading that, and I don't want anybody to comment on it, and we're going to move on. But it's a big news story regarding the Euros, so you have to mention it.
And the timing is quite funny because I'm sure they weren't saying this, but it was almost like Serbia was saying, we'll see how we get on tonight.
Yeah.
We might pull out. Yeah. If we find ourselves top of this group tonight, we might take a different view.
Yeah. So that's that. That's the admin out the way. But
I mean, honestly, it does make Serbia, Denmark a really big. I mean, people are going to be focused on the Slovenia game for England, and rightly so, of course. But at the same time, Denmark are going to be playing Serbia, and this group is wide open. I mean, the way England have played has been poor. So they're there for the taking. England are assured of a top 3 finish now, so you'd fancy them to have the best chance of going through. I mean, 4 points, you'd think they're going to go through.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? The third place in this group is definitely going through to the next stages.
Oh, because of what's happened straight away?
Yeah.
So England are basically through then. But my point is the whole group is still alive.
Yeah.
And every team in this group really has played okay in patches, but that's really it.
As I say, much like in Formula 1, I believe, England are better off being first or third. Second place is not what they want because they will be playing Germany.
Right.
And that's what I want.
You, my friend, are forgetting about the possibility of a big Switzerland win against Germany.
Ooh.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right, I did forget about that. Spain won, Italy 0.
What a performance from the Spanish. Where's Brassel? Coward.
Yeah.
Get him in here now.
Brassel wrote off Spain before the tournament. He slagged off De La Fuente, despite De La Fuente having won trophies at age cap level and the UEFA Nations League at full cap level.
Yeah.
He's loving it. And Spain are the team of the tournament so far.
They're most fun.
They've been great.
Remarkable, they only won 1-0 and they needed an Italian to score for them. But they've already won Group B. They hammered Italy. It was the biggest 1-0 hammering we've seen at the tournament. It was straight away, and this is the fear factor you're talking about. As soon as they start the game, Williams down the touchline, bang! The Italians are like, "Oh crap, we're in for a long night." Yamal as well.
Cucurella was amazing on the overlap.
Yeah, he was
busy.
Excellent.
He was excellent as well. But the Rodri, as we've come to expect from him, just the absolute flipping monster that he is in the centre of the pitch. Pedri and Ruiz having a lovely old time. They stretched the play. I mean, after the England game, I'm sure neutrals couldn't believe their luck.
It's like watching a different sport.
Even as England fan, I thought, this is what I needed. Just a bit of pace, a bit of not just a lot of pace, a lot of intensity, some crisp passing. Okay, the finishing was piss poor from Spain.
Well,
they missed some sitters.
Listen, you talk about them being the team of the tournament so far.
I am.
I would slightly disagree. I'd say Germany probably have.
They've played tougher teams.
They have played tougher teams, but I think if something's going to undo Spain, it will be, going over and over again and going over and over again and not scoring.
Clean sheets, mate.
Yeah, I know against Croatia they were fine, but I mean we'll see. But they were fantastic.
They start fast and they put the willies up opposition.
They have the perfect. We talked about this last week. They've got the perfect blend of exciting young players who shift the ball quickly. Older players who do that, who are also battle hardened to a point of they know how to control games, especially Ruiz as well, who's probably quite underrated as someone who I suppose mainly because he's the least high profile of that three, considering Pedri and Rodri are there alongside him. But he's a bit of a metronome as well, as you mentioned. Yeah, Rodri. I think there's just so much to like about them. Even someone, because of the way they play, and I appreciate this. Morata misses a lot of chances, but he feels like a bit of a statesman in that side, and also someone who has that tournament experience and big game experience that you just need. And
totally.
I also
blend of everything.
And Marcus is right to talk about the quality of the opposition, because if you look at that midfield area you've just focused on there, Vish, with Rodri and Pedri and Fabian Ruiz, like, they're up against Barella. Barella's they just won the league with Inter, played in the Champions League final,
won the Euros last time round. Super
experienced. They've all won the Jorginho as well. On his day is a metronomically good player. He can dictate a game really well, and I've seen him do that in the Premier League this season for Arsenal. It's like they weren't even there. No. It's like Jorginho has to be dragged off, basically. The intensity, and that's the thing, and you can relate this back to England, as much as people listening might roll their eyes. What's Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams got that England haven't got, right? They're both brilliant players. Yeah. Lamine Yamal's one of the most exciting young players in the world. We know that. Nico Williams is probably going to get a massive move after this tournament if he wants it. He's clearly brilliant, right? Yeah. But they're not like worlds apart from what England have got. No. But what do? They want to make things happen. That's why I always talk about, I'll tell you another great example of this, and he wasn't actually great last night, but Chiesa for Italy's like this. Yeah. He's always positive. He wants to make something happen. He wants us to take a chance.
Which is why I think we want Gordon in the side.
Yeah, and Gordon, give him a chance. Gordon might be a good example of that. Yeah. I think if you could build Eze's confidence, he'd be like that as well. Yeah. Cole Palmer's another one. We mentioned him. Cole Palmer can make things happen. He's not scared of anyone. So the difference between Spain and Italy and England was just the pace they played at and the intensity they showed and the real desire to get amongst it and really positively make things happen. It was 1-0. Yamal hit the woodwork. Nico Williams hit the crossbar with a fucking amazing effort. On another day, it's 3-0, I suppose.
Pedri misses a header. I mean, You want Morata on the end of those chances, actually. And people can criticise Morata, but he's actually, I think he's a better player than what people give him credit for. But people might forget that on another day, Spain would have won the last Euros, because they were better than Italy in that semi-final.
Yeah, they were, yeah.
And in hindsight, I would have fancied them probably, if they played like that, maybe to have won the final. Anyway, chaos theory.
I felt a bit for Calafiore because that was an unfortunate own goal. The way it takes a deflection off the player, then the goalkeeper then hits him when he's in the weird stride pattern.
Yeah, that's the fifth own goal of the tournament.
It's been crazy, actually.
Yeah, we've got a question from listener Fraser Woods, who says, since Calafiore is a heartthrob, is his OG an ick?
Oh, I see. Yeah,
okay.
He's devastatingly handsome, isn't he?
He is. Could be an ick.
You don't know what an ick is, Marcus.
It's something that puts someone off. A person they find attractive.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like it's a trait more than something about their appearance.
So, for example, I happen to think. Can I use you as an example, Vish?
I think you must,
please.
I think Vish is a very handsome man. Very funny, intelligent man.
But his political views are an ick.
His hay fever and his height are an ick.
Don't have a go at his height or hay fever.
I suppose the
Short Kings. Oh, you're all about short kings when I'm not in here. Say it now. Back yourselves.
I think you should piss off, you tall sod.
Yeah.
Oh, that's devastating.
I suppose would height be an ick? No. I don't think height's an ick, but hay fever probably.
Your hay fever's an ick.
Yeah.
I mean, you're full of snot.
Yeah.
People aren't really happy with that.
Yeah.
Your personality's an ick.
100%.
That's it. That's a good one.
The biggest shortcoming. It's so annoying, isn't it? It's just irritating all the time. People look at me and go, he's below average, but listen to him talk. It's worse.
I'll tell you what.
Because what one of the things that ends up being an ick is like really stupid things like running for the bus.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
So scoring an own goal, I suppose, would fall into that bracket.
Someone was saying to me yesterday, the biggest thing they find is when someone's got a second toe longer than the big toe.
I have that on both feet.
Well, there you go.
But you balances out.
Exactly.
Otherwise, we walk around in circles.
Are you going to mention Donnarumma or not?
Oh, he was brilliant.
He was
absolutely brilliant.
He needed to be.
Yeah.
He kept the Spanish players out.
Yeah.
He did. He genuinely.
He'll be asking for a clean sheet bonus for that.
Yeah, he'll be saying to Calafiore, next time, help me out, okay?
Yeah.
Let me get a clean sheet next time, because that was if it wasn't for the quality of the individuals in Spain, that was always a man of a match performance from Donnarumma. He was absolutely superb. There's been a bit of chat in Italy about the suits that they've been wearing. Spalletti said before the game, we wear Giorgio Armani, and Giorgio Armani is known around the world. We will wear the same suit, but we'll be ready to get our clothes dirty if needed. And apparently, it has, I think in Italy, they've been sort of saying, you not too sure about the garb, is it sending out the wrong message?
I
thought there'd be like issues with the tailoring or something.
Maybe, Vish, I don't know about
this conversation makes it sound like they're playing in the suit. They're not playing the games in the suit. No.
Maybe they are. Maybe
they should come on in the suits.
Maybe emotionally.
Is that why Calafiori got in a tangle?
They should come on in the suits and like status quo rip them off.
Is that what they did?
Status Quo once famously came on stage in suits.
Yeah.
I think it might have been for an award ceremony or something.
Here they are and here they go.
To accept an award.
Right.
And then with the suits on.
Yeah.
Then they were playing a song at the award ceremony and they ripped the suits off and had the old jeans underneath.
I see.
Yeah, they could do that, couldn't they? Yeah. Sorry about that reference, by the way. Not quite sure where that came from.
Not even I got it. Spalletti said that he won't change. He said, this is how I do it. I play passing football. And I mean, I love that principle. It didn't work, of course, because Spain are brilliant and they... their game plan was superb, but he was like, "How are we going to beat Spain? How are we going to beat the press? How are we going to do this? We're going to pass them. We're going to keep the ball. We're going to pass them." So I admire it, but I think that they're glad that they've got that game out the way.
Do you reckon they should have just gone? You've seen them though; they're good, aren't they?
Well,
good team.
Yeah, but I think against Croatia,
they got one of them 16.
You sound like the King of Spain. Apparently, he was seen meeting the squad and asked Jamal his age, and he couldn't believe it when he said he was 16.
Do your research before you turn up, King. You've got nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Put your sangria away, for crying out loud.
Shove that up your patatas bravas.
You can have patatas bravas.
Yeah,
I know it's the afternoon, mate, but fucking wake up.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Is that why Spain? What you want to do is play Spain at 2.
I think
if they had the 2 o'clock one, they'd be fucked, wouldn't they?
They're not ready for it.
Don't get us to play in the heat. You get out there and do it.
Yeah, we very much need a Spanish side from the 1950s.
England would look off the pace when the other team were asleep.
Come on, that's enough about England. We're enjoying this. So Italy play Croatia on Monday night, and they should actually keep doing what they're doing, and they will. That's Spalletti's way. But they could pass Croatia around the pitch. I mean, Croatia, we know about their ageing side. It'd be pretty difficult if they're zipping the ball around. So I would fancy Italy against Croatia. I think Italy a little bit better than they are giving themselves credit for back in Italy. Although, Spain were absolutely brilliant. And I worry for Albania.
Yeah, and that Croatia, Croatia have put themselves in a position now. I mean, that people are talking about their experience and how much of a chance they had to do well. They need to beat Italy now, and that's not at all an easy task.
Yeah, not an easy task at all. Right, well, for more on that massive clash between Spain and Italy, do search On the Continent in your podcast apps and catch last night's episode of OTC Reacts with Andy Brassel and David Cartledge, 2 of the very best voices out there on European football, if I say so myself. So listen to that straight after this. Let us depart from European shores, everybody, and go to North America, where the Copa America has begun. Argentina beat Canada 2-0 in their title defence last night. The game was in Atlanta. And Lionel Messi broke the all-time record for most appearances at the Copa America. His 35th appearance over 7 tournaments. He took the record off legendary Chile goalkeeper Sergio Livingston. To give you his full name, Sergio Robert Livingston Polhammer.
Is he named after like a series of politicians?
I think he might have been. His nickname was El Sapo, the Toad.
The ugliest of all the amphibians.
He looks like David Niven. He looks amazing.
He does look like David.
Look at him.
I thought.
How have I never heard of him before?
I thought we're going to the Copa America just to mention
Mr. Toad. I don't believe
you've been one of the most decorated players in our country history. We're going to call you the King, the Legend, the Toad. Bastards. Bastardos.
Why are we calling him the Toad? Oh, it's, the eyes, the moles.
Oh, dear. What a man, though, he was. Incredible.
What amazing! He's got a street named after him as well.
He does, yeah.
Look at him in this picture
Scotland
here.
as well. Yeah.
Look at him in this picture here.
Down in Scotland.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
He looks very toad-like there.
That's why he's getting.
Honestly, I swear he's in the same kind of position there as one of the characters from Wind in the Willows.
A little bit.
Yeah,
that's it. That is absolutely right. Yeah, good.
Some of the best scenes featuring a roly-poly toad.
So yeah,
Sergio Roberto Livingston Polhammer. Come on.
So Lionel Lionel Messi
died in 2012, sadly.
Yeah, 92, good innings. So
He's a footballer, not a cricketer.
Lionel
should have got 100.
Lionel Messi was very much a jumping off point there for the Toad.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch the game.
No.
I saw some of the highlights on Premier Sports YouTube channel.
Did you?
In which the font for the score made me physically ill.
Yeah.
It's like they're using a Comic Sans font for the score.
But Lionel Messi, of course, I mean, it's like a home tournament for him in his country of America, where he lives now in the United States. He admitted in a Spanish-speaking press conference while laughing, according to reports.
Oh, that he doesn't like playing in the cold weather?
No, that he understands everything or almost everything in English. But out of embarrassment, I don't speak. But I think I can, actually.
But
give it a go.
Give it a go, yeah.
That's in his world and with his fanboys, that's a lull, isn't it? That's him being funny.
He can't be bothered dealing with the English spoken press. That's why he's doing it, and fair play to him.
And that interview,
Brazilian Ronaldo was the same, by the way.
Yeah, that interview as well. It was the same interview I'm thinking about. I watched most of it, and it was a long form one. And he was actually saying, a lot of people picked up on the fact that he said he did actually find it quite hard to play in England when it was cold. And a lot of people were saying, "Oh, see, you couldn't do it in a cold Tuesday night in Stoke or whatever." He said, "I found it hard to get warmed up. It wasn't as easy for me to play." And I'm not sure if he was saying that's why he didn't come to England, but he was saying it was much more difficult for him to play there.
All right, well, up yours then.
Yeah, that's why he's in Miami, probably.
Oh dear. Right, tonight we do have more Euros games. In fact, you don't have to wait tonight. It's this afternoon as well. Slovakia Ukraine at 2, and that's one of those games where people think, "Oh, I don't know, get on it."
Yeah,
that'll end 4-4.
Don't forget Turkey, Georgia.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, Poland v Austria.
Don't forget Turkey, Georgia.
Netherlands, France.
A classic. A classic. I said to a friend of mine yesterday when I was watching the England game with him, we were obviously bored. I said he's a big international football hater.
Yeah.
He was saying, look, for me, it's a bit anachronistic. I'm not really that into international football.
Piss off.
The players need to play fewer games. He's just saying this stuff. And you'll like this, Marcus. I said to him, okay, well, if that's your position, you have that position. Think about this, though. You never get to watch a knockout barn burner between Netherlands and Argentina ever again for the rest of your life. And he was like, all right, yeah, we'll have it back.
Yeah, well, what I would say to him is,
show some fucking respect.
100%.
How's he getting in?
Into Miami. He's a future Hall of Famer into Miami.
He is.
Netherlands v France is going to be a belter tonight. What a Friday night treat.
Are we going to see a masked Kylian Mbappe? He's been
not with the mask he's been wearing. He's not allowed to wear it, is he?
Yeah.
It's been made in the colours of the French flag. I like that.
But he's not allowed to wear it.
Yeah.
He has to wear a regulation UEFA black mask.
Yeah, he looks like a knockoff Marvel superhero. But I feel like it's a risk. Why play him?
Yeah, it's a risk.
Yeah. What if he breaks it again?
There's so many people hungover from last night's game that be staying in on a Friday night tonight. They get to watch Netherlands-France. It's perfect timing.
Yeah. Get back on it.
I'm sure a lot of you saw this. Chris Sutton offering his views about Kylian Mbappe playing with a broken nose.
Can I read it?
Yes.
Do you mind if I read it?
Go on, then.
It's Chris Sutton. He's supposed to be previewing Netherlands-France.
Yeah.
The BBC website. A lot of men of a certain age are strange, and I'm fully aware that people might think that about me, so I'm not criticising him for that. But I just want to read you his preview of Netherlands v France, okay? Yeah. We are waiting to see if Kylian Mbappe plays with his broken nose. I am no medical expert. I can't be an expert at everything, but my diagnosis is that it probably comes down to how sore it is.
Yep.
Thanks for that, Chris. Patrick Vieira broke my nose once. He elbowed me off the ball at a corner when I was playing for Blackburn in 1998. I went down, and when I looked up, he was laughing at me while my eyes were pouring with water. Then I tried to take retribution by going in two-footed on him, but I missed and got a straight red card. As I got up, I saw the ref waving the red card at me, and Emmanuel Petit pushed me over and I landed on my nose again. It was a terrible few minutes for me. I reckon I would have been able to play with my broken nose, but not that particular day because I was sent off.
Oh, that's how it works.
Yeah. As for the game, I just can't see past France, really. I quite like the way Netherlands played against Poland, but France will probably edge past them.
It's what they do.
Needless to say, I had the last laugh.
Sutton's prediction, 2-1.
Yeah.
Just give us the scoreline next
Big
time.
thanks to Toby Baker for making us aware of that.
Nice one, Bakes.
One of our listeners. Cheers, Bako.
Yeah.
Cheers, Keiko Bako. I wonder if he's actually a baker, or whether he's probably not.
Oh, that was a terrible few minutes for me.
My goodness me. Do you think he knows he's doing it?
I don't. Yeah, he does. He knows.
Broken nose.
We could see Michael Proberts and his three-piece suit.
That's nice to look forward to, yeah.
He said, regarding the three-piece suit, well, I wanted to feel comfortable. I like to be well-dressed. I like to have a nice feeling.
You got a little chubby on. He's giving a little chubby, did it?
Maybe.
Keep an eye out for that.
He was then asked whether he suffered sleepless nights on the eve of a game like this. He said, "Not at all. I can sleep all the time. I slept in the car on the way to this press conference."
Won't drive away. To be fair, though, I mean, if he was drunk, it wouldn't make any difference because he'd be stuck in traffic for 3 hours based on what everyone else has been saying.
I know, mate. Is that what we're reduced to now?
Yeah.
Yeah, mate, look at your traffic.
Yeah. Don't look at our
Have a look at your trains before starting on ours.
Yeah, it's as congested as that England half in which they retreat into.
Thanks for watching a clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a video. And if you're feeling extra generous, why don't you like this video? Why don't you like this video?